Abu Sufyan was returning from Syria with a caravan. This wasn't just any caravan, it was loaded with 500 gold coins and every kind of valuable merchandise. But the road was not easy. To reach Makkah, Abu Sufyan had to pass near Medina. At that time, Muslims were present in Medina, fully prepared to intercept this caravan and reclaim their stolen belongings. Yes, the Muslims weren't robbers. They were setting out to take back their rightful possessions. When they had migrated from Makkah to Medina, the Quraysh had seized their homes, lands, and wealth. This caravan carried much of what had been unjustly taken from the Muslims. Feeling threatened, Abu Sufyan cleverly changed his route and sent an urgent message to Makkah. "Come to our aid, quickly." The messenger who reached Makkah made a dramatic announcement. He cut the ears and nose of his camel and tore his clothes while screaming. This was an ancient Arabian custom for declaring a state of emergency. In response, Abu Jahl declared, "The Muslims' army will be about 300 to 313 men. We will march with 1,000 soldiers, 100 horses, and 700 camels." Meanwhile, Abu Sufyan managed to reroute the caravan safely and escape from the Muslim forces. Thus, the original purpose, protecting the caravan, was achieved. Technically, there was no longer a need to fight. But Abu Jahl arrogantly insisted, "Even if the caravan is safe, we will not spare Muhammad and his followers. We have 3 fighters for every Muslim." Prophet Muhammad ordered the Muslim army to camp near the wells of Badr. The next day, the Quraysh army arrived, 3 times larger than the Muslims. The leader of Makkah, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, along with his son and brother, challenged the Muslims to single combat. 3 young men from the Ansar, helpers of Medina, stepped forward, but Utbah refused. "We want to fight our own blood, the traitors to our forefathers' religion." Then stepped forth Hamza ibn Abdul Muttalib, R.A., Ali ibn Abi Talib, R.A., Ubaidah ibn al-Harith, R.A. The duels began. Though Ubaidah was wounded, Utbah, his brother, and his son were all killed. At that moment, Muslim morale and faith soared even higher. Despite being outnumbered 3-1, Muslims adopted a defensive strategy. "We will not move from our positions. Let the enemy attack us." Abu Jahl ordered a full-scale assault. The result was astonishing. For every Muslim, 5 Quraysh warriors fell. The Quraysh army started retreating. The Muslims quickly reorganized their ranks, brought fresh fighters forward, and intensified their defense. Finally, the Muslims launched a counterattack, causing the Quraysh army to flee the battlefield of Badr in panic. Abu Jahl himself was killed during this battle. Meanwhile, the Quraysh in Makkah were anxiously awaiting news of victory. They were confident of success, for the Quraysh had never known defeat, not even during the incident of Abraha's elephants decades earlier. But now, only 313 Muslims had delivered them a shattering defeat. At first, Makkah's people refused to believe it, but gradually the bitter truth sank in. Their pride and honor had been crushed into the dust. A famous Western historian writes, "Before the Battle of Badr, Arabs saw Muhammad as a weak and isolated man, but after Badr he was seen as a king and military genius, destined to lead Arabia." After the victory at Badr, the pride of the Quraysh of Makkah was shattered. However, they continued to nurse their wounds, and soon, burning with the fire of revenge, they began preparing for another attack. Abu Sufyan rallied all the tribes of Makkah and formed a grand army, around 3,000 soldiers equipped with powerful horses, full armor, and fueled with intense passion. Meanwhile, in Medina, the Muslims prepared for defense. Prophet Muhammad advised that the battle should be fought within the city of Medina, but most young companions, full of zeal, preferred to meet the enemy outside. Following the principle of consultation, shura, the Prophet set aside his personal opinion and accepted the majority's decision. Marching to battle. Muslims set out with 1,000 men, but along the way, the great hypocrite Abdullah bin Ubay turned back with 300 followers. Now, only 700 loyal Muslims remained to face an army 3 times their size. At Mount Uhud, Prophet Muhammad devised a strategic plan. He stationed 50 archers on a hill and gave clear, strict orders. No matter whether we win or lose, do not leave your position. The battle begins. The Meccans launched a full-force attack. Initially, the Muslims fought valiantly. Heroes like Ali, R.A., Hamza, R.A., Abu Bakr, R.A., and others broke through the enemy lines. The Quraysh began to lose heart and started fleeing the battlefield. Victory seemed certain for the Muslims. Witnessing this, the archers on the hill thought the battle was over. In their excitement for victory, 41 archers abandoned their positions to collect war booty. Only 9 archers remained at their posts. The strike of Khalid bin Walid. At that moment, a brilliant enemy commander, Khalid ibn Walid, who had not yet embraced Islam, seized the opportunity. With lightning speed, he led his cavalry around the hill and launched a devastating surprise attack. The Muslim ranks scattered. What had seemed a certain victory now turned into a scene of chaos and disaster. The martyrdom of Hamza, R.A., fighting fiercely, Hamza, R.A., the Lion of God, was tragically martyred by an Abyssinian slave named Washi. Meanwhile, a rumor spread through the battlefield. The Prophet has been killed. This news struck panic into the Muslim army. Many lost heart. However, the reality was different. The Prophet, peace be upon him, was wounded, losing one of his blessed teeth. But he was alive. Acts of heroic courage. Only a handful of devoted companions, such as Talha, R.A., Ali, R.A., and Saad, R.A., stood firm around the Prophet. They risked their lives to shield and protect him. With great difficulty, the Muslims regrouped, climbed up Mount Uhud, and formed a strong defensive position. The Meccans, unable to climb the hill without horses, lost the courage to continue fighting and eventually retreated. The outcome: the Battle of Uhud inflicted heavy losses on the Muslims. Around 70 companions were martyred. However, despite their losses, the Quraysh failed to achieve any of their goals. They could not kill the Prophet, nor could they capture Medina. The Muslims learned a profound lesson from Uhud. In battle and in life, success lies only in following Allah's commands and the Prophet's guidance. Disobedience to leadership leads to defeat. Even after the defeat at Uhud, the pride and hatred of the Quraysh of Makkah did not fade. In fact, they intensified their efforts for another massive retaliation. Abu Sufyan began rallying tribes from all across Arabia. This was a colossal alliance, a fearsome union that raised an army of 10,000 warriors. To give some perspective, even if the entire population of Medina, including children, women, and the elderly, was counted, it still wouldn't match the size of the enemy forces. The defense of Medina. When Prophet Muhammad learned of the incoming threat, he called for an urgent consultation. In this meeting, a noble companion, Salman the Persian, R.A., offered a revolutionary idea. Medina is naturally protected by mountains on 3 sides. We only need to secure the northern side. Let's dig a trench. Everyone loved the idea, and thus the Muslims began a grand defensive project, the digging of the trench. Preparing the trench, each group of 10 companions was assigned to dig 120 feet of trench. To visualize its magnitude, it was as long as 36 cricket fields placed end to end, or enough space to fit 6,560 cars lined up. During the digging, the Muslims encountered a massive rock they couldn't break through. When they called Prophet Muhammad for help, he struck the boulder with his axe and declared, "Syria, al-Sham, is under our feet." On the second strike, he said, "Iran will also be ours." And on the third strike, "The keys to Yemen have been granted to us." Hearing these proclamations, the companions were amazed, because at that time the Muslims were starving and under siege, and the idea of conquering superpowers seemed like a distant dream. the enemy's arrival. The 10,000-strong army camped outside Medina. But when they saw the trench, they were stunned. This defensive technique was completely new to the Arabs. They were unable to attack Medina directly. All they could do was glare across the trench, while the Muslims sat safely secured behind it. The enemy's desperate attempts, the Quraysh laid siege to Medina for several days. They even tried to incite the Jewish tribes inside Medina to start a rebellion. One tribe, Banu Qurayza, betrayed their treaty and aligned with the enemy, planning to attack from within. The Muslims were trapped in an extremely dangerous situation. Enemy siege from outside, internal betrayal from inside. Divine help arrives. Just when the situation became most critical, Allah's help descended. A fierce storm hit Medina one night, uprooting the enemy's tents, scattering their horses, and overturning their cooking pots. In fear and disarray, the Quraysh forces fled from Medina. Banu Qurayza, too, soon surrendered. The result? The Muslims successfully defended Medina without an open battlefield fight. The Battle of the Trench proved that patience, wisdom, and steadfast faith can shatter even the mightiest enemy. This was a magnificent victory for the Muslims, and the entire Arabian Peninsula realized the Muslims had now become an indomitable force. After the victory of the Battle of the Trench, the morale and status of the Muslims rose significantly across Arabia. Medina had now become a strong and stable state. However, Makkah remained an open enemy. During this period, Prophet Muhammad had a dream. He saw himself and his companions peacefully performing tawaf around the Kaaba. This dream was part of divine revelation. Thus, the Prophet, peace be upon him, announced, "We are going for Umrah, not to fight." Journey to Hudaybiyah. The Muslims, about 1,500 strong, donned their ihram and set off towards Makkah. But the Quraysh barred them from entering the city. The Prophet sent Uthman, R.A., as an ambassador to negotiate. However, when Uthman's return was delayed, a rumor spread among the Muslims that he had been martyred. Upon hearing this, Prophet Muhammad called for the historic pledge of Ridwan. All the companions pledged under a tree. "We will fight and sacrifice our lives if needed." This pledge became a shining example of Muslim loyalty and readiness for sacrifice. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Eventually, the Quraysh sent a delegate, and a peace treaty was negotiated. On the surface, the treaty terms seemed tough on the Muslims. Muslims would not perform Umrah that year. They would come back next year. A 10-year truce would be established between Makkah and Medina. If anyone from Makkah accepted Islam and went to Medina, he must be returned. But if someone from Medina left Islam and went to Makkah, he would not be returned. Many companions found these terms difficult to accept, but Prophet Muhammad, with great patience and wisdom, signed the treaty. Unexpected victory. Outwardly, the treaty looked like a defeat. In reality, it was a huge strategic victory for Islam. The 10 years of peace allowed the Muslims to spread the message of Islam far and wide. As a result, more people accepted Islam in the next 2 years than in the entire previous 18 years combined. The victory of Khaybar. After Hudaybiyah, the Muslims turned their attention towards Khaybar, a heavily fortified Jewish stronghold about 150 kilometers from Medina. The same tribes that had plotted against the Muslims during the Battle of the Trench were now at Khaybar. With thorough preparation and secrecy, the Muslims marched towards Khaybar, the heroic role of Ali, R.A. One day, the Prophet said, "Tomorrow I will hand the flag to a man who loves Allah and His Messenger, and is loved by Allah and His Messenger." The next day, the flag was given to the young warrior, Ali ibn Abi Talib, R.A. Ali, R.A., faced off against Khaybar's most feared warrior, Marhab, and defeated him in single combat. After this, fierce battles ensued. One by one, the Muslims captured the fortresses of Khaybar. The outcome. The victory at Khaybar brought immense wealth to the Muslims. Medina's economy strengthened. Prosperity returned to the Muslim community. The Jewish conspiracies came to an end. It was a great divine blessing for the believers. After the Treaty of Hudaybiyah and the victory of Khaybar, the Muslims had become a strong and stable force across Arabia. Now it was time to deliver the message of Islam to the great powers of the world. The Prophet Muhammad sent letters of invitation to Islam to various rulers: the king of Abyssinia, Ethiopia; Negus, the emperor of Rome; Heraclius, Caesar of Rome; the king of Persia, Khosrow Parviz. Responses to the invitation: the king of Abyssinia respectfully accepted the invitation. The rulers of Rome and Persia, however, arrogantly rejected it. In fact, the Persian king went as far as tearing up the Prophet's letter in insult. A few days later, that same king was killed by his own son. Reason for the battle. When Muslim ambassadors reached the region of Syria, the Ghassanid king, an ally of the Roman Empire, killed the Muslim envoy. At that time, and even today, the killing of a diplomat is considered an act of war. This was a very serious matter. The Prophet Muhammad immediately declared, "We will take revenge for the killing of Allah's envoy." The first global Muslim army. The Prophet summoned the Muslims of Medina to prepare for battle. It became the largest Muslim army so far, 3,000 mujahideen. They were about to face the greatest superpower of that time, the Roman Empire, whose forces, along with their allied tribes, numbered around 200,000. Imagine 3,000 Muslims against 200,000 soldiers. Commanders. The Prophet appointed the following commanders in order. First commander, Zayd ibn Haritha, R.A. If Zayd is martyred, Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, R.A. If Ja'far is martyred, Abdullah ibn Rawaha, R.A. The Prophet further instructed, if all three are martyred, the Muslims should choose a leader among themselves. The battlefield. The Muslim army reached the fields of Mu'tah. When they saw the massive Roman army, some companions suggested, "Let's return to Medina." But Abdullah ibn Rawaha, R.A., full of passion, declared, "We have come to fight. Either we win or we attain martyrdom." The battle begins. Zayd ibn Haritha, R.A., carried the banner into battle and fought fiercely until he was martyred. Then Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, R.A., took the banner. During the battle, both his arms were severed, but he clutched the flag with his forearms and kept fighting until he too was martyred. Then Abdullah ibn Rawaha, R.A., stepped forward. Though he hesitated for a moment, he gathered his courage, charged into battle, and was martyred. Khalid ibn al-Walid, R.A., leads. The Muslims then quickly consulted among themselves and chose a new commander, Khalid ibn al-Walid, R.A., the Sword of Allah. This was his first battle as a Muslim. Khalid, R.A., displayed brilliant military tactics. During the night, he rearranged the army, had the warriors carry different banners, creating the illusion of reinforcements. The Romans, thinking new Muslim forces had arrived, became fearful. With masterful strategy, Khalid, R.A., safely withdrew the Muslim army from the battlefield without giving the Romans a chance to attack. The outcome. The Muslims did suffer casualties, but holding their ground against an army of 200,000 was considered a historic achievement. All across Arabia, people spoke in awe. The Muslims dared to challenge even the After the Battle of Mu'tah, the awe of the Muslims had spread across Arabia. Even the Quraysh of Makkah now feared the growing strength of the Muslims. According to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, there was supposed to be peace between Makkah and Medina for 10 years, but the Quraysh made a grave mistake. They attacked the Banu Khuza'a tribe, allies of the Muslims, and killed several of them. This was a clear violation of the treaty. Muslim decision. When the news reached Medina, the Prophet Muhammad immediately decided, "We will march into Makkah, but this time with swords in hand." The Prophet called upon the tribes of Arabia, and a magnificent army was assembled, around 10,000 mujahideen. March toward Makkah. The Muslim army advanced towards Makkah silently and swiftly. No resistance was encountered along the way. When the Quraysh heard about it, they were overwhelmed with fear. Abu Sufyan, the leader of the Quraysh, came to the Muslim camp and embraced Islam. The Prophet declared, Whoever enters Abu Sufyan's house will be safe, whoever stays inside their own home will be safe, and whoever seeks refuge in the Kaaba will also be safe. The conquest of Makkah. The Muslims entered Makkah without major battle. The Prophet entered the city with immense humility, his head bowed low in gratitude to Allah, not in arrogance over victory. Inside the Kaaba there were 360 idols. The Prophet destroyed them, proclaiming, "Truth has come and falsehood has perished." The people of Makkah were astonished. The very Muhammad they had exiled now returned as a conqueror. But instead of taking revenge, he forgave them. The general amnesty. The Prophet, peace be upon him, announced, "Today there will be no reproach against you. You are all free." This scene of universal forgiveness became one of history's greatest moments, capturing thousands of hearts, and the people of Makkah entered Islam in crowds. The Battle of Hunain. After the conquest of Makkah, the tribes of Hawazin and Thaqif plotted revenge against the Muslims. They even brought their women and children along to prevent their soldiers from fleeing. Their army numbered about 20,000. The Muslims, fresh from their victory, marched with a large army of 12,000 towards them. The Valley of Hunain. The battle took place in the Valley of Hunain, between two mountains. The enemy had set up an ambush. As the Muslims entered the valley, they were suddenly showered with arrows from all sides. The Muslim ranks scattered. Many new converts fled the battlefield. The Prophet's steadfastness. Despite the chaos, the Prophet Muhammad did not retreat a single step. He called out loudly, "I am the Prophet, no lie! I am the grandson of Abdul Muttalib." Hazrat Abbas, R.A., called the companions back loudly. Gradually, the Muslims regrouped and then launched a powerful counterattack, ultimately defeating the enemy. The result, at Hunain, the Muslims captured 6,000 prisoners, 24,000 camels and sheep, and immense spoils of war. Right after the conquest of Makkah, Allah granted the Muslims yet another great victory. From that moment on, the whole of Arabia recognized Islam had now become the supreme power across the land. After the conquest of Makkah, Hunain, and Taif, the flag of Islam was waving high across Arabia. Now the threat came from outside powers, especially the mighty Roman Empire. The Romans, seeing the rising strength of the Muslims, began preparations for war. Declaration of war. The Prophet Muhammad announced to the Muslims, "We shall march to face the Roman Empire at Tabuk." This journey was not easy. The scorching heat of the desert, shortage of food and water, and Tabuk was 700 kilometers away. Yet the Prophet, peace be upon him, commanded, "Whoever has the ability must come forward for jihad." The sacrifices of true companions. The Muslims responded with heartfelt generosity. Hazrat Umar, R.A., gave half of his wealth. Hazrat Abu Bakr, R.A., brought all that he owned and placed it at the feet of the Prophet. Hazrat Uthman, R.A., donated 900 camels, 100 horses, and a large amount of money. Even poor companions came forward with a few dates. It was a magnificent display of faith and devotion. The journey to Tabuk. A caravan of 30,000 believers set out from Medina. Along the way they endured intense heat, lack of water, weak camels, yet the light of faith triumphed over all difficulties. The battlefield of Tabuk. When the Muslims reached Tabuk, they discovered that the Roman forces had retreated out of fear. They had avoided a direct confrontation. This was a declaration to the world. Even the mighty Roman Empire now feared the Muslims. At Tabuk, the Prophet established treaties with nearby kings and tribes, set the amount for tribute, jizya, and expanded Islam's influence over new territories. The Prophet's final days. Upon returning to Medina, the Prophet, peace be upon him, realized his mission was complete. Arabia had been united, the message of Tawheed, oneness of Allah, had spread everywhere, and the world stood on the brink of a great transformation. During this period, the Prophet performed his first and only Hajj, the farewell pilgrimage, Hajjat al-Wada. The farewell sermon, on the plains of Arafat before over 100,000 companions, the Prophet delivered a timeless sermon. No superiority exists based on race or color. Treat women with kindness and respect. There will be no prophet after me. Hold fast to the Quran and my Sunnah. During this Hajj, a powerful revelation came down. Today, I have perfected your religion for you. Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ayah 3. It was the divine announcement that Islam was now complete. The passing away. A few months after Hajj, the Prophet, peace be upon him, fell ill. During his illness, he appointed Hazrat Abu Bakr, R.A., to lead the prayers. He arranged his personal affairs, and he gave his final advice to the Ummah. On 12th Rabi al-Awwal, 11 AH, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, departed from this world. Medina was engulfed in grief. The companions wept uncontrollably, but Hazrat Abu Bakr, R.A., stood strong and said, "Whoever used to worship Muhammad, know that Muhammad has passed away, but whoever worships Allah, know that Allah is ever living and never dies." The Prophet's mission accomplished. From the struggle of a single, lonely man, an entire nation was born, united under one faith. The great empires of the world began to fear the Muslims, and a mighty ummah arose, one that would soon shake the entire world.